anytime my eyes blinked, I would get this. Yep, that's the noise I got in my ears every time. It would just, and then
where the fuck is McClay?
And it is. It's gorgeous, man. It's really, really nice. So I'm gonna take a look at it, and if it's even nicer than I think, no, it's got one spine breaking.
Awesome. This is the Bogcast. I'm your host, Keith Obit. If you enjoy the show, make sure to hit that red subscribe button and leave a comment. We have some YouTube perks if you want to sign up for some behind the scenes exclusive footage, including a rapid fire we did with Max Cavalera. So you can see all these different perks on the screen right here. Each different tier comes with, like I said, a different perk, free stickers, posters, the intro song, different little badges if you make comments once we start doing our live shows, things like that. So you can also find us on TikTok. Our TikTok's kind of blowing up right now. I actually have this little 1-2 minute clips where they actually have a text that comes up with pictures kind of as the guests are explaining different stories and things like that. So you can also find us on Teespring if you want to get some Bogcast gear. In the next week or so, the entire Teespring will be revamped.
You have shirts and
stickers and hoodies. Well, because it's going to be like a summer line. There's hoodies on there, but it's going to be more tank tops and shirts and shit like that. So, and then just a reminder, also the audio is available everywhere. You can find us on Spotify, Apple, fucking Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, there's a bunch I don't even fucking know about, but yeah, you can literally find us anywhere. So anyway, today we have a very special guest in the house. I've known this dude for I don't even know, at least 5 years, if not more. He's one of the first gentlemen I met in the film community here in Arizona. When I first started acting, I acted in his student film. I think it was his first project too, right?
Time ago,
that was your first project, right?
Yeah.
And then I ended up acting in another project of his, and we just became friends over the years. And then just recently, he was the director of photography on a project that I just wrote and directed called The Sound Guy. And I would like to welcome Scott Levesque.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, dude. I actually said your last name right this time.
Yep.
Anyway.
You were saying all this stuff, and I was waiting for somebody to come through the door.
Nah, dude. Today, actually, we're going to talk about a very important subject. And, yeah, let's just get fucking right into it. Scott has Asperger's. And actually, if you can, just maybe explain to people what exactly Asperger's even is, if for people who don't know.
It's kind of a difficult thing to explain, honestly, right off the bat, just getting into it, because it's so diverse. There's just so many people that are on the spectrum or that have, because Asperger's is basically you're on the autistic spectrum. So, and there's just so many different forms or different ways people think or ways they react to tactile things, to touch. Like for me, certain touch stuff, sensory things that will bother some people that have Asperger's doesn't bother me. And so everybody's different. You'll get some people who only like smooth things. They can't wear anything textured or it has to be super smooth, or they just
a feel.
Yeah. And sometimes for me, it's I'll just wake up one day and my clothes that were feeling fine. And it's weird because it'll just be random, but sometimes you'll get stuff where it's I'll wake up one morning and the clothes that I've worn a million times that felt comfortable to me, for some reason, just a seam or something just feels off and uncomfortable, and then I just can't wear that. Then I have to switch it out for something different, so there's just it's different sensory things that are almost, think of it as like sensory overload. So I like to explain it as I grew up as a kid in Maine. And I grew up in Idaho a little bit. I grew up in a bigger family. So I feel like I didn't really have the same construct. I was right smack dab in the middle of 2 older brothers and 2 younger brothers. So anything that came with Asperger's or autism, where people are like, oh, well, usually they don't like communicating with people, or they're not really outgoing or sociable or this or that. It's like, well, I had no choice. I had two older brothers and two younger brothers, and I was thrown in the middle. So it's like I had to learn how to communicate and be around these people all the time, and no matter what, like I had.
Do you think that helped?
I think it did. I think it did. I think it made it easier for me to interact with people because I was right in smack dab of these different types of brothers that I could interact with. Ones that I was really close to on sports teams, the other ones that I knew and was close to, but they were a little older than me, so always a little ahead. But it was, the different personalities, and so it was like I kind of feel like I learned to, because then I would meet some of their friends, and then some of their friends, and then some of my own friends, and school and stuff, and so I would end up getting a lot of different interactions, and sometimes not even wanting them, but it would forcibly kind of integrate me or get me to the point where I was comfortable with it. And I was just became like, oh yeah, it's not a big deal. And then sometimes, like sometimes it's like, I still get times where it's like, I don't want to talk to anybody. Because it's just overload. So it's like a hard thing for some people is like, which was explained, in a Facebook group I recently joined, that I had been interacting with people and talking with people. And, there's a lot of people that will put out, hey, does anybody else feel like this? Does anybody else deal with these things? So one of the things that came up was like a big key thing. So how I said everybody's different and diverse in the spectrum. There are certain things though that are like the same, if that makes sense. So every single one is going to have different stuff when it comes to what they like and don't like, but there are characteristics that all fall under the same thing. Like social cues are a big thing. Like even though I was around that with my family, I could talk to other people and I could network and I could interact, make friends, things like that. But then there was still social cues that weren't understood. So it was still things where it's like people I thought were my friends weren't my friends. So it was like thinking, oh, everybody's my friend, or everybody, and it's like, no, that's not usually the case. Like you should need to pick up on these social cues. Some people are not your friends, and it's just lessons learned. And sometimes I learned the hard way. You're a kid, and then you go through those uncomfortable situations sometimes. But I think that one of the hugest things that everybody though across the board on that has in common is their brain runs like 1,000,000 miles a minute. So think of it as like they're on like a supercomputer overload in their brain where they're trying to process and understand how everything's feeling, and consciously they're thinking about that, like with the air on their skin and the sun and then what the person's saying, while they're processing all of that and taking that in while they're thinking about some random movie quote, while they're thinking about some other thing they need to do for the day. And like you just throw it in line, and there's like 1,000,001 things that are all going on in the brain at once, and it's called like overprocessing. So that overprocessing is one thing that they all have in common along that whole spectrum, along that whole board. It's
just hard to focus on one thought.
Yeah, but at the point to where it's like crazy, where it's like it almost gives you, not crazy, I shouldn't say crazy, but it's I mean crazy in a way like it's immense, like there's a lot of it at once, like so think about it as like I don't suggest it for everybody because everybody's different, but I use cannabis to calm a lot of that for me. So to calm a lot of that super over processing, I'll medicate with cannabis because it helps slow the synapses in my brain. I've studied it too in the past, so I knew, okay, it helps slowing these synapses and the signals going, so I'm not over processing so fast on everything. Some stuff I end up not caring about, which is nice because that's like, oh, now I can be like everybody else. That's kind of like they don't care so much about where all the exits are or what everybody's face looks like or where their clothes are, and what they're wearing. And so that's for me. If I go into a concert sober, that's what happens. My brain will go, how a computer runs too fast, I'll get that noise in my ear where it's like a ringing. And some people might have that, some people might not, but I get that. And it was explained to me by doctors because I had a QEEG done that it's synapses in my brain running too fast. And so that causes that noise. And it's like, he joked with me when he came out, he was like, your brain runs faster than the speed of sound. And he's like laughing. He's like, but I'm being serious. And so I had like no calm parts of my brain at the time. when I was in there. So I think I've started to regulate a lot of that, which was causing me constant anxiety, fight or flight. Like, but it's because when I'm sober, like my brain wants to, like if I go to a concert, I can't enjoy it. Like somebody can show up to a concert without being on the spectrum. That's like a, normal person, but they can go in, not care what these people look like or these people's face or who's where, what they're wearing. Or they're just like, oh, this is cool. Like, where do I want to stand? What do I want to eat or drink? Like they focus on the normal things. Now let me go chill now and wait for this concert to start. Where like for me, it's like my brain is trying to process the entire crowd, catalog everybody, put them in a position in my brain, wear their face, wear their clothes, colors, like exits, like just cataloging everything for some weird reason. It's like your brain just goes in that overload mode.
Are you able to enjoy the concert
when I'm medicated?
So with cannabis?
Yeah. So when I do it, usually I use that a lot integrated in my life just because that's what helps. It mellows the things down so that I can enjoy stuff like that and not think about all that extra stuff where my brain goes. But I know a lot of people have problems with that. And it's one reason why.
With what, cannabis?
No, just with the overprocessing.
Overprocessing,
think of it this way: it's like a lot of that overprocessing too. It's like they get stuck in sometimes. So it even works as I look at it as if you can slow it down. Sometimes it works as a positive because you can catalog and remember a lot of stuff and see it and you take it in a lot. But sometimes it can be a double-edged sword. Like a lot of people with their depression, a lot of people on the spectrum, autistic spectrum, they suffer from depression, anxiety, and I think me just being an observer, what I think a lot of it has to do with is that they're very in tune with their surroundings. They're very empathetic people. They just understand how other people feel, but at the same time, they kind of observe and see more and they can process and take more information. And so they're kind of more, whether they like to admit it or not, subconsciously, they're more in tune to their surroundings. So I feel like that leads to a lot of depression when your surroundings aren't the best situation sometimes.
Yeah.
And then I think some people get in that overprocessing mode and they fixate on all those bad situations or negatives and it makes their depression worse. And then they'll end up either committing suicide or dealing, things like that. Like, so it's one of those things that it's like understanding, I think, is key on, okay, I'm dealing with these emotions. I'm dealing with this crazy speed in my head, but it will pass. It'll go away just like everybody else's does. Mine, for some reason, just comes across more intense for myself. So that's one of the things, like even a lot of people on the spectrum, it's like, think of this. Here's an analogy. So think of it this way, is like, this is the easiest way for me to put it in an analogy, is if you feel an emotion, like let's say we'll take a little knife or something and you do a little tiny cut and like, this is how much of the, like that represents emotion. And that represents, okay, this is how much emotion a normal person feels. And you have that little tiny, it's a little tiny gash. It's not bleeding too bad. It's an analogy. But then you go and you see somebody that's like on the autistic spectrum and they're feeling that same emotion. Well, their gash is going to be a lot bigger. They're going to have a lot bigger gash. They're going to have a lot bigger. It's for some reason, it's because of that overprocessing, because of, a lot of the ways the brain's wired, their emotions are multiplied by 100 kind of deal. So it's like when people on the spectrum get heartache, it's like 10 times, 20 times worse than normal. And it's not just because of just like, oh, you had a heartache. Like some people can get over it quick. Some people, it's even normal people, sometimes it takes them a while, but it's like, at this point, it's like for them, it's like their brain goes a million miles a minute, so they're thinking about everything,
and then their emotions are amplified.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But it's like it's not, because it doesn't end up being most people on the spectrum have very good memories, so it's not, and very good visual memories as well. So it's not just like that one heartache; it's all of them at once.
Yeah. So, is cannabis prescribed for Asperger's?
Some places do. Like some places, like I know Utah just did medical. They do. I don't know if it's here for Arizona. I don't know if that's
It should be,
I
right?
don't know if that's one of the listed things. Yeah, I mean, I think it should be. I think if it's up, just like everybody has a choice. I feel like some people should have a choice whether to use those type of products and more natural substances instead of man-made chemicals or pills. Because that's another thing is a lot of these people on the spectrum are just getting pills thrown at them.
Well, that's what I wanted to get into is the cannabis versus like, I'm sure you've taken prescribed drugs throughout your life. Well, what kind of drugs were you on and the experiences you had with them?
So sometimes like in the beginning, I was on like antidepressants, some normal antidepressants. I forget exactly, like Zoloft, things like that.
Okay, so just really quick, when you get diagnosed with Asperger's,
so I wasn't at first though. At first, I was a
okay.
kid.
Actually, we should start at the beginning with this thing because one of my questions actually is, how old were you when you were diagnosed, and like what were the symptoms?
I was an adult. I found out late, so that's another thing. Some people don't find out till later, and then it's like, they're like, well, that's why I was having issues in school, or that's why.
Well, how old?
So I was like, what, I think 27 maybe. I was like a 27.
And how did the diagnosis come about? Were you just seeing a doctor?
It was when I was a younger kid. So you know how like when you go see a doctor, a lot of people might not know this, but this is a legit. So if you go to a doctor and they go, "Oh, have you ever used any drugs, like any cannabis or like?" Because where I was at in Idaho, or where I was at places, at this point cannabis was illegal. So they would ask you questions like, "If you ever used those," they'll put you down as a drug addict or a drug user, and it stays on your record no matter where you go. And people don't know this, and you could have just said, "Yeah, I used it a couple times." Now you're a drug addict and they put it around just because you used it a couple times. But so same thing for
that's a bit.
But same thing for head injuries and like things like that. So like I had normal head injuries growing up as a kid, like from playing sports or different things like that. So they put down like, oh, traumatic brain injury. So well, then that was following me, and I'm like, I don't have a traumatic brain injury. Like I volunteer my time and work with people who are on the autistic spectrum and who have, who are like I would say less functioning autistic spectrum, and then adults, that have traumatic brain injuries. And I was like, I have nothing in common with these traumatic brain injury people. Like I can do everything that they can. Like they're having difficulty with a lot of cognitive things they're putting on clothes. I was like, that's not me. But so I challenged it. I don't know. I just challenged it. I was like, I don't want that following me around. So I was like, let's go get some tests and studies done. And we did. And we went and got some tests and studies. And I went to this place in Texas called the PMP Center. And they ran like personality tests, cognitive tests, IQ tests. Then they, the whole shebang, like, and then they had me sit down to like a QEEG. So it was like measuring all the electrodes in my brain or the electrical impulses in my brain. And those, the wavelengths, how fast they move. And so they show normal brain and they show that it's supposed to be some purple, some blue, some calm parts too and stuff like that. Well, mine was just nothing but like orange and red and just like fat, like every section of my brain. So that was just them. They're like, yeah, we know you're in fight or flight. Like, but that was one of the key signs. They're like, you suffer from depression, you have anxiety all the time, you have, like you've been dealing with that since a kid, super high IQ, but like you miss a lot of social cues and things, but then here it is, your brain's running super fast. So it's like all the signs of it. And then just talking with, like, I ended up going to a conference too and learning a lot more about it after that, I think.
So once you found that out, did you feel a sense of relief in a way? Or were you kind of like angry and sad, or I don't know?
No, more of just like, it was more of just like okay, now that I understand and I can understand like, what might happen or the processes or why I feel a certain way or something like that. It made it just easier to strategize my life at that point, where I knew like, okay, some people might have issues. Like for me, like some people can go to sleep for 4 hours, wake up and boom, 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 and do everything. Like for me, it's super stressful because of all the over processing my brain does, the extra processing. So that's another thing. It's like people sometimes don't realize it's like it's tough being in noisy places and super, light polluted places, things like that. And so sometimes it's tough for a lot of people on the spectrum, because they're trying to just not have to process everything at once. And so that's another reason why, like, when I went to that PMP center, they're like, you need actually. They were telling me I needed more rest than the normal person. So I was like, I would laugh a little bit. They're like, you need like 9 hours to 10 hours of sleep because your brain over processes so much that's what you need to, to get the full rest to be able to.
Did they give you sleeping pills and shit?
No. Well, I worked with a lot of the doctors to not be on medicine. So like to get back to that, is, when I was younger and they didn't know what was going on with me, I was a little kid that, and I had a lot of those symptoms. It wasn't.
Did your parents think there was something wrong?
Yeah, but when they brought me into like neurologists or different doctors back when we lived back east in Maine, it was always like, oh, he has ADHD. Oh, it was easy stuff because let's just give him some Ritalin or some Concerta, or, like easy ADHD. He just doesn't want to pay attention.
How's Ritalin, bro?
So what?
How is Ritalin?
Oh no, that's what. So that's a crazy story. So that actually is like.
Can you get some?
No, that's like one of the reasons. So Concerta. So what happened was there's this brand name Concerta. When I started going in, they did the neurology test and so on. The Concerta they prescribed me. So I was a Mormon kid who had never experienced what any drugs do to you at this point in my life.
Because you guys are drinking Sprite and shit.
Yeah, it's just like, no, for real. It's
I know all about it.
Super clean, never taken it. And then here it is like, oh, first time I'm taking a pharmaceutical drug. So I don't understand what's going on in a lot of it. But that was what I was talking about, social cues. I was bullied in school a lot. And when I was bullied in school a lot, it was mostly because of things like I said. I thought these people are my friends and they're not my friends. They didn't want to be my friends.
You just weren't picking up on these cues.
Yeah, and so and they really didn't want to be my friends, but I kept trying to hang around them and be their friends. It's like that annoying. Now I look back and it's like that annoying character in the movie. It's just trying to hang out and be the friend, and they're just like, "What the fuck are you doing here, dude? Just get out of here. We don't want to be friends with you." And it's like, "Oh yeah, funny dude, like funny joke." So I look back and I was probably like that character, just chilling. Not understanding these cues. And so at that point it was like I had dealt with a lot of the bullying. I did have at one point though, like, a depression dive because some of the bullying got worse later as school went on, and it got more physical. And then I ended up taking this Concerta stuff. Well, that's what I was saying with the over processing in the brain, and then giving in person on.
What is that? I don't even know what that is.
So it's Ritalin, Adderall, basically, but it's like an older form that's time released. But it's basically like giving somebody on the spectrum speed. So it's basically like, hey, your brain's super fast, let's speed it up more.
Holy shit.
So it's like, let's double it. Like, and that's what it was doing.
Did it make it worse?
It made my brain worse. Like I was at the point where like I couldn't differentiate thought from thought in my own brain. I couldn't think straight.
That's a huge misdiagnosis.
And then like I ended up, so and that's the one thing too, is like a lot of pharmaceuticals usually have the opposite effect on people on the spectrum, or it doesn't work at all. So it's like, but they gave that to me, and so that was my story about the over processing and
you just got even more annoying.
No. It put me into a spiral. So like I ended up having an OD. I ended up almost committing suicide.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Because of that, it was because of those things. So that's where I get to the understanding of like, I know I'm not the only person who dealt with that. There's other people out there who deal with it, but it's like, so that sped me up. The wrong medicine they gave me. Then I'm a young kid not understanding, oh, this will just go away. I just have to wait it out. It's just medicine, because I'd never taken it.
How old were you when you were started taking it?
14.
14, okay. So high school?
No. 6, 14 turning 15.
Maybe like freshman?
I was 14 turning 15, yeah. It was right after my ninth grade or 8th grade, yeah. So freshman. But yeah, and then that's why I was like, and so I ended up, and it was crazy because I didn't know, and I just waited out. So, but that's what I was getting at. The over processing kicks in all of those negative thoughts, and then it's just boom, 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 boom in your head. And then it's just like, so for me, I was this young kid thinking like, I don't know that I can just wait this drug out. And then I'm just like, well, I kind of want all this chaos in my head to end. I want to, I don't want to. So I ended up just down in a bunch of blood pressure medicine, dude, and just like trying to like just die. And then one of the weird things though is like I actually had that life flash before my eyes moment. So that's what got me to stand up and go do something to be like that saved my life. Basically, like I said something to my parents to rush me to the hospital to save my life, because there was a point where I was just like, I got all these slides and this flash before my eyes, and then it was just like all these things that I was going to miss out on. So they're future things. They weren't past things. It was all future stuff. And so in my head, I was just like, well, I guess I can't do this. And then I think there was something that I saw in there vividly, because everything, you know, slowing down. When you take like a blood pressure medicine, it's weird. It's like really weird. It slows you down, and then you can feel your heart slowly stop beating. It's a weird thing, but like, and then those slides were kind of getting slower too, and it's weird. So I was like seeing certain ones a little longer. But it was a really weird feeling. But
And how old were you when that happened?
14.
Oh,
yeah,
same
like,
age?
well, turning
Okay.
15. That was when it
Oh,
happened.
okay. Fuck,
it was the
dude.
same time. It all happened like really short. I think I took like,
So you took the
I
Ritalin
think I took
and
like
then
2 doses of the Ritalin.
Jesus Christ, and that soon. Fuck.
I'd taken like
That's
the second
crazy,
dose,
dude.
and then that. But
It just
But I
drives me
think-
nuts how easily these doctors hand out
for sure.
pharmaceuticals like that.
for sure. Well, and then
fucking
for
dangerous,
me,
man.
I think that was one of the things too. It's like now later in life, I've been able to understand or process these things and figure out, like, try to strategize, figure out how can I help other people who deal with those same.
Well, for sure, yeah.
Because I know people who usually are on the spectrum, or you're usually kind of a loner. You're not. I mean, you have some close friends, you have family, but it's usually hard for you to connect with a lot of people. Because there's just a lot of communication breakdowns. It's difficult sometimes. Like somebody could tell you to be more affectionate. You're like, well, what do you mean? I don't get what like, unless they're specific. You're like, I don't. What
Well, you want to talk
you might
about-
think in your head you are, but
Can I tell a story really quick on how I feel
yeah.
like me and you got closer?
oh yeah.
So, I don't know. It was probably a few years into our friendship. I don't want to tell the story of what happened because I don't want to reignite that shit. But I did get upset at you, right? And I was mad at you probably for a good 7 months. And I didn't think I could make it more clear that I was pissed. And then about 7 months in, I think I finally answered your call or some shit, and you're like, "Bro, I have Asperger's, man." You're like, I can't get emotional cues sometimes. Like, I didn't even know you're angry at me. Dude, I actually fucking started
I know, because
crying.
I think I kept messaging you, and I kept like
I was
sending you
ignoring
stuff,
your
and
ass. I was like,
I
"Fuck
kept
this
thinking
guy."
you're, oh, he's busy, man. I'm happy he's
I was
busy.
like, "Fuck
and I
this
kept
guy."
being like, I'm happy he's busy. He must have taken off. Like, he's
No,
doing
but
great.
when you told me that, dude, I actually like started crying and shit. And as shitty as that was, I'm kind of glad it happened because I feel like it made our friendship closer. Because now, obviously, I have this great understanding of you, and I love you to death.
Yeah.
And like, yeah. So, is there anything maybe that you wish people that don't have Asperger's could understand? That, you know what I mean? Like, does that make sense? Is there something that you wish they can know about people with Asperger's?
Mostly just patience, and
Patience,
then mostly I think like just like the patience and understanding, but also at the same time just like sometimes they might not be the people who are just going to come up and talk to you. So but it doesn't mean they don't want you to talk, or they don't want to get to know you, or maybe have a possible networking or a friendship. It's like sometimes they really want to in their head, but their brain's going so fast and they don't even know where to begin, and it's like they're just waiting for somebody to talk to them. And a lot of the times it's like, because I know I do it too. It's like I don't shut up about certain subjects, but it's like that's another big thing. It's like people on the spectrum of Asperger's, if they are interested in a subject matter, they'll talk about it forever. Like, and you'll have to be like, oh, well, I got to go now. Yeah, like they'll just keep talking for like 2, 3, 4 hours, like about the subject they like. Because it's like usually their memories are great, and when they read about it, they're just like, "Oh yeah!" And then
Dude,
finally somebody engages with them, so there's like,
to
oh,
me,
yeah.
that's like what I actually like love about you is that when you get into something, you go balls out with it. So, for example, cannabis, you don't just smoke cannabis. You know about the terpenes, how to grow, all this fucking crazy shit.
The health
Film
benefits,
shit. You don't just watch
yeah.
film shit. You know how to fucking make films, run the camera, all that crazy shit. Like, so I actually really respect and appreciate that passion.
And that's why I was like, it can be a double-edged thing, but it's like that's why I was.
But you could use that to your advantage.
Yeah, and that's why I was like thinking. It's like there's people out there. It's like it doesn't mean they don't want to talk to you, but then it's like, I think being very direct as well though helps. Where it's like, talk to them, have a conversation with them about something they're interested in, and then, bridge the friendship, but then also let them know, it's like, hey, like,
I only got 4 hours.
Yeah. Or like, yeah, let them know, like, be direct with them.
Yeah.
Be like, I have a little bit of time. Yeah, let's
Yeah.
have a conversation. But, after about 40 minutes, I'm going to have to go do something, or, but let them know, and they'll be respectful.
And that's how
That's the thing,
we
like,
are, right?
yeah,
I'm
like,
straight up with you.
Yeah. And that's
and
like,
you don't get mad. You're like, hey,
no,
okay, cool.
it just
yeah.
helps.
You're like, cool.
It
Yeah,
just
exactly.
helps.
Yeah.
There's no gray area. It's just
Yeah.
like, oh, it's either this or it's this.
Yeah.
Sweet. Okay.
Yeah.
And then so, but yeah, that's why I like, so I think that helps a lot. Just being very direct, understanding that their brains might be over processing a lot too. So they might, like, yes, they want to have a conversation, be patient with it, be like, kind of, not everybody might want to. Maybe it's a bad day. It's like, sometimes even normal people sometimes have a bad day and don't want to talk to people. It's just this life. But it's like, I think just knowing that, is just knowing that just because they're not coming up talking to you doesn't mean that people don't want to have a conversation with you, or kind of bridge that gap or network. Because I feel like everybody at least has something in common, where they've traveled, or a show they watched, or something they like, or something they've done, and it's like you can find something in common with
Or
anybody.
not even that, is like, it's, sometimes you don't even realize somebody is struggling, or what they've gone through, or what their upbringing was, or that they have Asperger. So don't just assume everybody is, okay. You know what I mean? Like, all of the time, because, I'm sure there's a lot of people that still don't know that you have the Asperger's.
I'm pretty open about it now, but I mean, if they don't ask, or I mean, I'm kind of open about it for the most part. No, I was more not as open about it, because I found out about it when I was in film school, and I would only tell my teachers, and then I didn't really tell my classmates, or like that secret thing where you just tell your teachers, and like, oh, well, one of our students has, but then they don't
Just
say
give you an
who.
A.
Yeah, no, but then they don't. No. But then they don't say who, But it's like, so at that point, I was just like, I don't know. I was more reserved about telling people. I didn't want to. I think I was more. I don't know. I just like maybe embarrassed a little bit, I think. And then, or like, because I just didn't understand or know. But then as I've researched and I've understood, and I started getting to know things more, and then finding out, nice thing that helps too is finding out other people like Elon Musk.
Yeah.
And people who are significant, or people who are actually
Elon
somebody.
Musk is probably like the best example, dude. Holy
But
shit.
so that for me, it's like that helps give a lot of inspiration as well, where it's like, hey, you know what? Just because I have this, all it's saying is I have heightened abilities of sensory and processing, and how do I use that to my advantage? How do I slow things down a little bit? How do I focus? What can I do for that? And I honestly feel like pharmaceuticals aren't the answer. So that's
Can we get back to that? Like, I know you talked about Ritalin. When you, either up until you got diagnosed, or when you got diagnosed, were there any other drugs that you that you took?
No. So after that,
besides cannabis.
So after that little like overdose thing, and then I had to spend time in an adolescent unit. So they were giving me like Zoloft. They're giving me those for depression. Oh, you have depression, anxiety. Then it turned from that. Oh, you don't have ADHD. You have depression and anxiety. Well, no. I was a fine, normal person until I had that Ritalin, and then that made me go over the edge. And then now, like, I was a little bit sad, but it was because I was getting bullied. Just like, but that's another thing is what you brought up was awesome too. Is that you don't know what people are going through. People on the spectrum, if they're going through the worst stuff in their life, like they could be getting beat up on a regular basis, like physically, and they won't. It's hard for them to try to verbalize it or tell somebody. It's difficult for some reason. Like, it's just, I don't know, it just gets difficult to try it, even people close to them. So like that whole time I was getting bullied, my family was thinking I was just acting out and being like mean to them. But I was projecting a lot of what was happening to me back, but I wasn't able to communicate with them what was going on at school, or what was going on with these peers, or but so back to the thing, they would give me the Zoloft, these different deals, and they would always end up working for like maybe three months, and then it would just be a pill I took out of routine, but it wasn't doing anything. I was like, I still feel sad, I still feel depressed, like it's not helping me. So what? I kept getting that routine where I'd just question it, like, well, what am I doing? Why am I taking this thing? Because for a while I had to go see psychologists or people to talk to because of that overdose. Like, I was an adolescent. I didn't have a choice. I wasn't my own guardian. I had to go see people and go to these things. And so that's one thing I noticed was it was that. It was the here, let's take you, it's not working anymore. Let's take you off. Let's try this one. Let's try that one. And then it's like, and then by the time you're taking 2 or 3 different pharmaceuticals, you're taking them and then they all mix together in your system and they're not the same chemical anymore.
I just want to apologize. I'm not.
No, yeah, for sure.
I'm so worried about these fucking cameras and audio just not working because I did have an issue a few weeks ago. So I am completely engaged. So I just don't even think I'm not listening.
Okay, and so I just looked at it as like, I don't know. I started thinking about that and I was like, I don't think pharmaceuticals is the answer. I think it's like eating a clean diet, getting exercise, healthy exercise. And then I think cannabis mixed with your natural endorphins and exercise is plenty and helps. And it's more natural for your body to filter out. It helps with depression, anxiety, inflammation, and pain. It helps with focus if you get the right strain. It's like, so at the end of the day, I feel like and your body's filtering out one thing. It's not filtering out 4 or 5 different pills you took that are.
And plus, those pills usually have more side effects than the issue they're fixing.
Yeah,
so
where it's like the side effects of weed is hey, this may cause laughter and munchies, and maybe a little coughing. Or red and itchy eyes. But at the end of the day, it's like, well, I'd much rather have that than a bleeding anus. You know, I'd rather have itchy eyes and a cough. Yeah. And it's like, I'd rather not have that. Like you said, 100 different side effects possible.
So when you were, I think you said 26, you were diagnosed?
Yeah, when I was 20, or around 26, 27.
Did they give you any prescription drugs at that point?
No, I had already been off of them for a while. So I had done that. I had gotten off of everything before I even went to go get that and found out and got diagnosed. I had a really awesome doctor that I came across in Idaho, Dr. Tim Nelson, who's just awesome. But I explained to him because at this point in time I was on an SSRI uptake inhibitor, which I was like, why are they giving me this? Like it was a serotonin uptake inhibitor. And I'm just like,
is it like Prozac or what is that?
It was Cymbalta.
Okay.
So, but it would be like,
hey, Fabius, what's up, bro?
It would be like if you didn't take it, your whole day was wrecked. If you forgot to take it, you like anytime my eyes blinked, I would get this. Yep, that's the noise I got in my ears every time. It would just, and then and so like it would just be bad. You'd have a withdrawal basically from it. And they're like, and when I told the doctor about it, he's like, we suggest you don't come off of it. The doctor I was currently seeing. So he's basically trying to tell me take it for life. Oh, we suggest you don't come off of it. I found out, he's taking kickbacks probably.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
So I went to a different doctor.
Buddy. I'm sorry.
I explained to him, these are the symptoms I'm getting when I forget to take it for one day. And sometimes I'm so busy. I want something I can function with. He's like, if that's what we need to get you off that quick, let's wean you off. So this guy, Tim Nelson, was smart. Like when I went in his office and looked, I'm like, yeah, this is he has a civil engineering degree, like a master's in civil engineering, and then a doctorate degree in medicine. And I'm like, okay. It's
so hard to find a good doctor.
This guy's smart. And his philosophy, his first questions to me that he asked were that I was like, I'll never forget this. And I'm like, it's one of the best doctors, but I'll never forget this. His first questions were, what's your diet like? How's your exercise? And I'm like, okay, here we go. This is the great doctor and a great start to ask. And then I started talking with him, and he goes, okay, let's get you eating these things more, and on a healthier diet and exercise regimen. And then he got me off pharmaceuticals, completely off pharmaceuticals.
Dude, just really quick, I know the diet shit works for a fact. And it's not just like, well, it is diet, but like it's your gut biome too.
Yeah.
So for example, like me and Jordan will eat clean as fuck for like, a whole week or two, and I'll feel amazing. And then on a weekend, I'll just completely cheat, dude. Eat ice cream and pizza. I mean, go balls out. And I feel like shit. I'm depressed. Get stomach ache? You know what I mean? Oh, yeah. Yeah. I feel like I'd fucking, yeah. And so, but I'm saying mentally too, like I could feel like I feel like depressed and shit.
Well,
so,
and more tired.
Tired, groggy. Like diet is everything.
Because I noticed too, like when you eat certain food, like that is healthy for your gut biome, and then it keeps everything going good. It's like after you eat, you actually do feel energized. Oh, I'm a little bit more awake and energized. Yeah. But then when you eat that bad stuff, it's like you instantly feel tired. Like I kind of gotta take a nap, and it's like you don't want to go do things.
Because when you're eating those bad, shitty processed foods, it's literally just destroying the bacteria in your gut biome. To where when you're eating clean and taking probiotics and things like that, you feel better, not just physically but mentally.
Well, that was the other thing that you just brought up that's crazy. People don't realize. So these people who don't take probiotics every day, but they're taking, and this is just other stuff I learned from reading, research, and common sense, but they're taking pharmaceutical pills every day, Tylenol, anything you take, Tylenol, pharmaceutical pills, anything kills gut biome.
Definitely.
So if you don't replenish it
with new
stuff, you're going to continue to just have nothing. And then your whole system is messed up.
You know what actually drives me insane? And doctors do this 99% of the time. They'll prescribe patients antibiotics for like 2 months and not even talk about or bring up probiotics.
So
you're literally just, and most people don't know that. So they'll just destroy their fucking gut biome
and it's only,
it never gets really replenished properly.
It's only if you say it. That's the thing too. Like, cause when I've been in certain doctors' offices before, I've been like, they were like, well, we'll prescribe you this antibiotic. And I was like, oh, and I'm going to take this probiotic too. And they're like, oh yeah, it's a good idea.
Yeah, exactly.
If I mention it, then it's, oh yeah, but then they won't.
They just
tell
think
you.
you're like some smart motherfucker when everyone should know that.
Same thing though with heavy metals. Like
I take actually a probiotic every day. Anyway.
I don't know if you know this or not. You should probably get a heavy metal check even. But
oh dude, I'm metal, bro.
I know. I was like, I found this out. So here's another thing too that people don't. So here's another thing.
Fucking heavy metal, bro.
People don't recognize on the autistic spectrum is that and some of the people on the autistic spectrum don't even know this about themselves. I learned it from going to this specialist and paying the money and seeing this specialist and going to a conference in Louisville because I had a chance to do these things. But the hugest thing is they retain heavy metals. People on the autistic spectrum, so basically they retain things that are poisonous to their body. So anything that's heavy metals in pharmaceuticals, anything in processed foods, processed foods are horrible for people on the autistic spectrum because of all the heavy metals.
So you're just saying they retain it more?
Like lead, anything that's bad heavy metals, lead, mercury, all this bad stuff. So I found out because when I was having my all the way back when I was having my head injuries that I had, which was like age 8, then I was at age 12, age 14. I had all these head injuries where I had to have contrast injected into me to see stuff. So they put in gadolinium, thallium, uranium, these things to see. I don't know if you know that, but it's all heavy metals.
Oh, no way.
And they put in your body.
Dude, I think I have to have an MRI in like a week.
Well, they do that and they put it in your body. So you can clean it out if you take, so after you're done your MRI, take, there is it's spirulina, blue spirulina, and chlorella algae will oxidize it and clean it out of your system.
Hey, dude, real quick, dude, can I just piss really quick?
Yeah, go for it.
I'm gonna piss my pants and then we'll stop. We'll go for another 20 minutes. I'm sorry. Holy shit, that's crazy, dude.
No, you're gonna want that stuff, but no, dude.
Now I'm scared.
They found that in my body years later. When I was 26 years old, that's when they finally found all that stuff. And then I had to have it clean out. Seats taken, Fabius. All
right.
So the whole thing though is like the contrast. That contrast is going to be like a bunch of heavy metals. So all those contrast that I had when I was younger. So from that way back chunk of time, right to where when I had that done, because they did a whole blood workup for me in that PMP center, I had quadruple the amounts of uranium in my body I was supposed to, quadruple the amounts of gadolinium, all these rare earth metals. They're rare earth space metals, like to make spaceships and all this weird stuff like that. So basically I had all this in me, and then they're like, no wonder you're tired all the time. You can't lose weight. Your body is just like, doesn't work. You're hurting because your joints hurt. You got all this, because the heavy metals in my body were too high.
Damn.
And I was basically in a poisonous toxic level.
How'd you get them out?
Where at that point, I had to go through a chelation. So that's something doctors don't tell you about either. Doctors will do it for themselves. They'll give themselves IV chelation and clean out all the heavy metals and keep them, but they don't.
Are you talking about the like when you
can do a chelation,
take your blood out and come back in or whatever?
No, that's one way. You can do that. You could do that.
That's
but chelation is more. It's putting chelating things into your body that oxidize the heavy metals and pull them out. There's some sulfur oxide that does. There's certain things that do. But then you have to take all these other things to protect your thyroid and other parts of your body while it's doing it, because it can if it's at a toxic level. So mine was at a super toxic level. And and it was like, you know, they warn at those levels, then now you can get cancers. That's what causes a lot of sicknesses, cancers, a lot of these like diseases, because your body's at dis-ease. You know, that's what they say. You know, I have all this toxicity. So that's one thing. People on the spectrum, their bodies don't clean out heavy metals, so they can just over time become poisoned if they don't eat clean food sources, have clean things they're taking in their body. Or what it is there's a chlorella algae that goes out by like BioPure, and it's like a very clean source, but you take that on a, you know, every so often, like every morning and night, so, and it slowly oxidizes and cleans out in a gentle way everything into your body, and it's good for your gut biome as well.
Can I ask you this?
Yeah.
Supposedly your body's made up of about, I think, 110 minerals.
Yeah.
And every morning and every night I take a sea moss pill that is 92 minerals.
It might be
of the 110.
the sea moss might be a chelating thing as well.
Yeah.
I'm not 100% sure, but it's like, I think it's in the similar family as the because blue spirulina and then that chlorella both do, and I think they're in a similar family.
Well, what is it about people with Asperger's and their bodies where they would retain metals more than somebody that doesn't?
They don't know. They just know that's one of the characteristics that it's like, it seems to be common in almost everybody on the autistic spectrum.
I don't think I've ever had my blood checked for uranium and shit like that, though.
No, because it's usually extensive tests. When they test it, they only test for mercury and lead and the normal stuff that might be in water and stuff. But you have to pay for an extensive test, and they give you a full workup, and it tells you the levels and then the where it should be, the normal place it should be, and then what your levels are.
I just had an extended test. I'll have to look and see if that's on.
But it's one you have to request, and then the doctor has to agree to it.
Yeah.
That's the horrible part. That's the thing that stinks.
Because they don't want you to know.
Yeah, it's not. It's not fair. Because guess what? If you're not getting sick, they don't make money.
Yeah, it's a business for sure.
So that's the same thing where I know is like, it's like, even for the cancer stuff, it's like, yeah, I hear you there, but I'd rather try coffee enemas and the Gerson therapy over pumping poison in my body to kill an already poisonous substance in my body.
Well, I don't want to divert subjects, but from my experience, I realized I think you need to do both, honestly. Unfortunately, you need to do like the holistic, even fucking fast if you can, but you have to do a little bit of that poison, unfortunately, because dude, me and McClay lost our best friends. We've lost two friends who went the holistic route, and then it was too late. And actually a perfect example is, and then like, for example, my mom, she just took the poison, and like it was 2008, and I wasn't as smart as I am now about all those things. So I feel like I could have, with the knowledge I have now, I actually could have saved her. Little McClay is a perfect example of someone who like did holistic CBD every day and shit like that, but also like got poison, and he had a fucking thing of cancer the size of your fist removed from his leg, gone, and he's cancer free and shit, dude. I mean, that's pretty unbelievable.
Well, and I believe you can, because I mean, I guess
but
it's like,
it sucks. But at the same time, like I know where you're going with it. It's like a business.
Chelating therapy, like stuff. If you're taking stuff to clean out your system you know, chelate it, clean it all out, then I guess you're protecting your cells at that point.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I could see that. But and then the pharmaceuticals, it just knowing that, it's just not a good, honestly, not a good fit for most. I found out for most people on the spectrum, I feel, period. It's just like it clouds it. If it does help you, or you think it does, it kind of more zombifies you.
Yeah.
So the ones that did end up helping me were like Xanax, but then I would be more of a zombie with Xanax, and I'd have even more communication problems because I'm just Xanaxed out, and then it's like I'm even more not wanting to talk to people. I'm more, and then getting off opioids, that's one of the worst things ever. So it's like, it's not good for your system. Biggest thing I learned, I think, from being on and off pharmaceuticals growing up as a kid and throwing stuff at me, and then luckily having Asperger's and having a high enough intelligence to figure out and put pieces together. But any of these pharmaceuticals long term are horrible for you, because they just fry your receptors. At the end of the day, your natural brain receptors stop working correctly. So then you have to have that for life. You have no choice. Your brain won't function without it. So it's like, that's what I was learning even from the Xanax stuff. It's like what it does to your receptors that naturally regulate the hormones for calmness and that kind of, keep that natural anxiety endorphin into your body. those get just wrecked.
Oh,
and
for
then,
sure, dude.
And then it's like, it's just bad. So it's like, I think to take out of it for the whole Asperger thing and autistic thing, I think just for sure holistic is the better way to go, just because of sensitive and holding on to heavy metals. But and then just making sure clean food sources and and clean stuff in your system. But
do you have just day-to-day struggles that you have to deal with, like every single day?
Oh, every day I wake up like this is the thing is even though sometimes I'm in a good mood or I seem to be in a good mood, there's always, like I said, when people on the autistic spectrum are their brains are moving a million miles a minute, the depression is like an everyday struggle. Everyday struggle, like all the time. So like every day I wake up, I have to figure out a way to not a reason or figure out a way to not be depressed and just focus on something that's to keep me pushing to get through the day and I think it's, for me, I noticed the depression for me comes from the overactive mind, which I think happens with a lot of other people on the spectrum, is their brain is thinking too much of the past and too much of the future. So then they're in the future all the time and anxious, or in the past and depressed all the time. Instead of just focusing on what can I do today for now? What's my goals today? And then it's like, I think it's good to have a long-term goals, but I think a lot of those things get, the way our brains work, we get too caught up in it. And then we're fixated now on the future. And then we're fixated now on the past. And then it's like, it either pulls you down and depresses you, or it gets you too uncomfortable and anxious. And then you get depressed because you didn't accomplish the goals you set, which weren't realistic goals, because it was way in the future. So it's like, I think that's my biggest struggle. And I know we've had that even on simple projects sometimes in that communication. We're like, just think about this for now, just this section for now, nothing else.
Like, dude, we don't gotta worry about that for like 6 months.
Yeah. And so like, and so you've experienced, you know what I mean when I say it. It's like that's what I'm getting at. Sometimes it's like, so that's the struggles every day of trying to get things to focus on for the now. Okay, what am I doing today now? Right when I wake up, to the littler things every day for the battle. And I feel like once you start getting in that routine, and once I've been in that routine, it's been better. It's calmer. Things are nicer. You can go with the flow more, it feels like.
You'd say that again?
Don't got to control
that
more.
last part?
You just go with the flow more.
I'll go with the flow.
Yeah, because it's just like, kind of like how the universe just pulls you places. It's just easier to do that because you're like, well, I'm just focused on today. I can't, and it's true, you can't control tomorrow, or you can set stuff up to hope happen tomorrow, but it's like, you can't control it.
Sorry, I'm just hearing a buzz.
Yeah.
Has your Asperger's, like, besides like growing up and like those kids and shit that you were fucking, I guess you were saying you're being annoying or whatever too. Has it like destroyed any relationships, you think?
I don't think so. I don't think it has. I think it's now I've just learned to kind of be open about it, and people take it.
I'm not saying because of you, because of like somebody else. You know
no,
what I mean?
yeah. And I think that's what I'm saying. It's like, I don't think it has. I think I'm just usually be open about it, and I think nowadays more people. I feel like there's more people that know about it nowadays, so there's more people that are more understanding a little bit. I feel though it's like it's still not.
Well, if you don't know, now you know.
I just feel like it's one of those things though that, you know what I mean, it still has a lot to be shared, and people know, like, oh yeah, people have Asperger's or people have autism, but they don't know exactly what it is, or they don't know like what we just got into, the processes or the daily things they deal with every day. Because there are some people, like, people don't realize Albert Einstein had Asperger's. The guy could barely get dressed.
Oh, Einstein did? I didn't know that.
He could barely get dressed. He had trouble getting dressed. He was so high IQ, and he could come up with these formulas and the craziest things and inventions and thoughts, but he could barely dress himself.
Fucking comb his hair.
That's what I was saying. Like, yeah, it was like he had issues doing that. Like, so it's like, and that's usually what happens. Your brain is super great in all these other sections, but then there's a couple little normal functioning things that you just sometimes.
Do you know any like really cool random facts
about
like
just anything?
Yeah, you know, like
all the time. I just randomly, yeah. I mean, it's just
like, so for example,
things.
I don't know if you ever watched that show Love on the Spectrum. It's on Netflix.
No, my mom always tells me to see it.
You need to watch it, bro. You know what? You should. They're casting for season 2. Dude, that show has me in tears. It's amazing. Like Jordan absolutely loves it too. It is such a good
tears as in
show.
Laughing, or tears as in like
no,
emotion?
like just because it's all of it. because these people, man, they say like what people are thinking out loud all the time.
That's the other thing.
I love
People,
that.
So that's the other
dude,
thing. People,
I fucking love
that's
that.
one other thing.
I'm
too,
like, I would never say that.
That's why sometimes people on the spectrum are hesitant to talk to people because they don't know, am I going to offend this person? Or what will I say that they might not like or like? And that's where I've found some of my best friends is when I don't have my filter. And it's like, and I'm just saying whatever the top of my head.
Me, I don't give a shit.
And they're just like, oh, I like this guy. He just doesn't even have a filter. So this is where it's coming across. I've been told because I don't have my filter, one of my best friend's dad, who I'd go to his punk rock shows and do thrasher punk all the time, he one time put it nicely. It's just like, you know what? Because I told an embarrassing story, I think, one time, I forget, that it was like very truthful, and you know it was truthful because of how embarrassing it was. And you're just like, oh, why is he even telling me this? But then his dad afterwards was just like, you know what, Scott? You have a childlike honesty. Started laughing. We all started laughing because he's like, the most embarrassing thing can happen to you that you should keep to yourself, and you share it anyway. don't even care. You're just honest about everything. And
I love that shit, dude.
But that's kind of how it is. But I think that's where maybe a lot of friendships might have gotten skewed or have had issues, is when I'm not, because I've had some friends where it's just like, I'm just kind of blunt or black and white about certain stuff. And then they just don't know how to take it, or just taken the wrong way, or I say something and I don't mean it that way.
That's got to be fucking a disaster through text.
Like, oh man.
You know what I'm saying?
I don't,
because
really
people already just read text differently.
Emojis help.
Like I could text you something and we could read it two completely different ways. So
for sure,
that's got to make even communicating more difficult.
That's why I think the emojis definitely help for sure. Emojis help for sure. No, they do that, but it's like it's. I think it's just wanting the people. Because now I'm inspired to like try to do a doc. I know we talked about it.
Yeah, talk about that.
I want to shoot a documentary around the world that's using the tools we have to kind of basically explain more day-to-day basis of people on the spectrum, and then kind of tools that will help empower these people to want to stick around in life. Because here's the thing I think about: all of these different people on the spectrum are very unique. Think about all the different people that could be potentially, if they learned to calm their brain and control the chaos, which is the huge thing, control that chaos in their head. All the Elon Musks that could be out there, or all the other people that could be potentially smart enough to invent something to change the world.
Could you imagine if there was 100 Elon Musks in the world, how much better this place would be? Seriously.
Everybody's talking free.
No, I'm serious, man.
For sure. I'm just saying, it's like, that's what I look at. And so in my mind, I joined that Facebook group, and at first I joined it as like, wanting to join. That was me, but wanting to join it as like, as kind of just interested to see, well, what is it all about? Somebody sent me an invite, what is it all about? But then it turned into, you know what? I want to ask some questions, and I asked some personal questions in there and shared some of my story we just talked about my attempted suicide and feeling certain ways. And I got back so many responses, like personal messages from people.
That's badass.
I got personal because I asked, I was like, do you think a good documentary explaining this stuff would help people? And that was the craziest thing, because there was so many people that just responded in different ways. Like some people who already lost their children, who were like, I'll share my stuff. And like they said they'd share their story.
Fuck.
So it's just because it's one of these things that you think about that you're like, and their biggest wish was that they messaged me was, I wish there was more out there for them to see other people that deal with the same issues they deal with, or that, because I guess like in Ireland, in the UK, in some of these places, it's not an easy pill to swallow, and I guess they don't have as much help or resources as here in the United States. So that's kind of what I want to talk, like what I want to get into in that documentary, is that there's places in the world where there's super high suicide rates of these people on the spectrum, but it's because they don't have the same resources they have here, and they don't have the same help or the understanding to know that there are people out there that you can kind of talk to or be around that go through the same exact thing every day. And you might think they're the happiest people, they're the most normal people in the world, and it's not. Like deep down, it's like they're just like you, dude. Like they go through the same thing, So that's where it's like that's why, like I said, like, so like understanding people that come out and speak out that are important in society, like Elon Musk, or like I know Jimmy Fallon too. He's another one.
Fuck
So it's
him.
like, so it's like, I just
kidding.
say at the end of the day, it's like, but people like that, it gives you that, oh, well, look at what they're doing with their life. And then it leads you to that question, the important question. Well, why can't I do that with mine?
You know, I'll be straight up, dude. People are gonna watch this are gonna think that about you because you fucking what you did for me on the Sound Guy as a director of photography and your knowledge of film and what an asset you are on any project is fucking next level, dude. And I'm honored to even have you on my side and work on all this shit with me, man. So
I'm glad
you're
to
gonna
have
be
you as a friend.
you are an inspiration to other people, dude. So I think that's badass, dude.
But yeah, that's my goal. I'd like
And really
that
quick, that's your
yeah.
calling, dude. That documentary, by the way,
Well,
like
that's what I'd like to do.
and I would love to help you, you know, producer in any way I can. So I think that's your calling.
I know my goal with that is to just try to just bring more awareness to it worldwide, and then also just like lessen the people who are on the spectrum, lessen the attempt of suicides or the suicides and the suicides in general. Basically, just try to like lessen all that and dampen it. Just because it's like, I think it's just knowing. I think that's going to be the hugest thing, just in that documentary, just sharing other people's stories, and then sharing the fact that
you can not only
there's so many people that are just that seem to be normal everyday people, but they are on the spectrum and they have Asperger's too. And like a lot of people don't know that until I just shared it with you now. But it's like that severe depression is like super bad all the time for me. But it's just like I just deal with it because I know, like, I just learned to deal with it, and I know certain things that help. And that's what I'm saying, not over focusing on the big, huge picture all the time. Sometimes it's just, hey, I just need to go for a hike, and I just need to focus on getting my steps from here to here, and that's all I want to focus on for this time or this. And so doing those little things like that keep you busy.
That's when I notice you are the happiest, dude, is when you're hiking and exercising and just fucking doing film projects, like, you know, your passion. That's when I notice you're the happiest.
Well, and it all benefits you, because at the end of the day, it's like you're just doing nothing but positive things to either advance your career or to keep you healthy, so it's like, but at the same time, it's keeping your brain healthy too.
And you have some really
not focusing on things where you're getting caught in that cycle or caught in a bad thought process, you know.
Yeah, and you have some really exciting things coming up with your move to Salt Lake and all that shit. So.
Yeah, well, we'll see we'll see how things go. Well, because I never know. Like, I like to say those things, but then it's like you never know where your career leads you or what will happen, you know. So
back to the Love on the Spectrum really quick. So there's a guy on there who, like, you can say any date and he'll tell you if it's a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or Saturday. Like, literally, you could be like June 23rd, 2009. He'll go Tuesday. Can you do anything cool like that?
I wish. No, I wish. I'm not that cool. I'm not that cool.
What the fuck?
I'm not that cool like that.
Make sure I have all the right questions.
I'm more of the person where it's like I've already cataloged an entire, like, if I live with you and you're my roommate, or like when I lived with my family, I'm the guy where it's like, hey, where's this? Oh, it's over here in the drawer, third one down in the back. Like, I just know where everything is. My brain cataloged everything. Okay. So, like, I memorized everything in the house, where it's at, where is it. So I'm kind of like that, where it's like, you need to find something, I know where it's at.
Yeah, you seem to, like, once you learn something, like, remember it well.
Yeah, so I have those where it's like when I was going over scripts with people and doing line readings, it was like, even some actors were like, how are you doing that? Like, I've spent, like, 3 weeks memorizing this stuff.
I know.
I memorized it after, like, just reading it 3 times.
Yeah.
I was like,
I'm the other guy,
just acting with him and doing like, what? How'd you do that?
Yeah, I hate people that can do that.
Where they had to pause their acting just to ask me how I memorize things. So I don't know. I think that's another thing. Is like, just.
I always like will ask other actors, like, what's your process to memorize a script, as if there's this secret. There really is. Like, either you can do that or you can't. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's hard. Last question really quick is, what advice do you have for anyone that might be struggling with their Asperger's?
Just find your people. Find people who understand what's going on in your brain and the processing. And then there's going to be people out there too who have family members who they might not be going through it themselves, but they have family members who, who are on the spectrum, that they can still kind of offer support or help as well, because they know they've dealt with it with their sibling or with their, parent or kid or whoever. So it's just, I would just say, find your support, find the people that you're comfortable with, and then just open up. Make sure you're open to the people around you. Let them know, I have Asperger's, just let them know, try to not hide it so much or feel a certain way. Because at the end of the day, I feel like we're getting into a type of world where it's just it's easier to just let people know ahead of time.
Definitely, dude.
Because the information's out there and all they have to do is Google or look it up if they want to know about it. And then and then if they don't have any understanding, that's on them.
Dude, when you told me that, it brought us so much closer together and just, gave me such a better understanding. And I did the same thing. I did a deep dive on it and all that shit. And, so.
Well, and that's what I mean. It's and then you're one of those people who's oh yeah, I want to understand, or I want. Then there's some people who won't care to, and but then that's okay.
But you need them in your life, yeah,
exactly. That's okay.
Yeah.
They don't have to. But that's where it at least, if they're open about their Asperger's, it at least weeds out the people in their life. It helps create the filter so that they don't have to pick up on the social cues.
Yeah.
Hey, I have Asperger. Boom! Now I have a filter already. It's an easy without picking up on cues or not. But yeah, that love on the spectrum's rough, because I was gonna say, that's a tough thing. It's
that show?
No, just relationships.
Oh,
is a very
dude,
tough
I'm telling
thing.
you,
it's a very
love
tough
on the spectrum.
thing.
If you're watching, cast Scott Levesque. I'm telling you, he'd be a fucking great character on there. They're in the U.S. now. It used to just be in Australia, and now they have Love on the Spectrum U.S. And dude, it's a great watch. We just binged the first season. I fucking the characters on there are great.
Have you been talking to my mom?
No, no. It's a great show. Anyway, let's see. Do you have any? It's probably the UPS guy. Do you have any plugs or where people can find you and shit like that?
Just at A Film Road on Instagram. If you just look up A Film Road, you can find me there. That's where I'm mostly on. But yeah, that's about it for now. That's where I'm mostly on.
Cool. Is there anything else that you wanted to add on top of this, or maybe that you wanted to?
No, just that I hope more people kind of can get a positive message and kind of hopefully help themselves, empower themselves to to control their chaos and do something good, do something great. I just don't want people to get bogged down by life or feel like there's no other feel trapped or like there's no other alternative. That's never fun. But yeah.
Is there like, I don't know, this might be a dumbass question, but like a hotline or somewhere where people can reach out to, or maybe even that Facebook group?
I think there is. There's a lot of Asperger help stuff, but yeah, I noticed there's a lot of people that reach out in that Asperger's Facebook group, and worldwide too. It's not just so I mean, here I'll say it right now, but what it is, but yeah, it's a worldwide deal, so it's definitely, it's called let's see if it'll load. It's called Asperger's Syndrome Awareness. That's what it's called. And there's people that are in that group that are on the spectrum. There's people that are in that group that are, here, you can probably show it up.
Well, I'll put a picture up here once you send it to me. I'll put one right here.
But then, yeah, it's called Asperger's Syndrome Awareness. And it's basically just like a spot where anybody can kind of, if they want to just kind of befriend people or talk to people, because there's people that are on there that aren't on the spectrum but have family that are trying to understand, like, my brother does this or this or that, like, does anybody else deal with that, like what's some things you do to cope, or
it's cool when you're struggling with something and then you find other people like in the same situation that you can relate to and share stories and experiences with. So that's the one like cool thing about Facebook, like groups and shit like that. That's really cool.
I think it helps out a lot, and then especially if there's some people that you look up to or that you think, oh yeah, they're doing great, or because like, yeah, I found that out a lot. It definitely
is Elon
helps.
a big inspiration?
I think I would say so, just because he's just of what he's done, and then how he's able to just tune out a lot of the negative noise or turn it into a humorous
Not only tune it
situation.
out, but fight it.
Yeah, well, or just turn
Give
it
him
into
the
something,
finger.
turn it into something funny. Like
Yeah.
he'll like
He's the
use
biggest troll
he'll
ever.
use his sense of humor and flip it around.
Yeah, he's the biggest
and that's where
troll.
you get that black and white sarcasm. Is like people on the spectrum are good at sarcasm for sure.
Yeah, he's fucking funny, dude.
But yeah, I think so. Just because of what he's done, the innovation, and then that's where it's like, listen to these people, because it's like.
The fact that he
like
just
how he's warned about AI stuff, like I guarantee you that guy is at a level right now where he's around all of the talks, he's around and seeing it all and knows what it's about. And if he's warning, he's warning for a reason, because he's probably piecing a lot of this stuff together and figuring out what's going to be done with it. So, like, we'll be T2 here real soon.
fucking Skynet and shit.
Yeah.
Fuck. All right, well, that's another episode. All right, well, I just want to say I really appreciate you coming on the show and sharing all this shit with us, man.
Oh, for sure.
And I really do look forward to your documentary on it, and I'd love to help in any way I can. So.
And I think what it will end up doing is it'll probably be a worldwide one. That's the goal. My goal is to start the fundraising. So like, hopefully I have a connection to somebody who's Elon Musk's press person. So press secretary type of person. So it's like, hopefully I'll try to get that word, but maybe if we can get funding that way, we can start launching it. And the goal is to just go worldwide with it. Like I want stories from everywhere, from everybody that wants to tell or participate. And so, and it won't be the easiest pill to swallow, but I think it'll be necessary.
Definitely. Right on, man. And if you enjoy the podcast, make sure to hit that red subscribe button, leave a comment. And like I said earlier, we have all these different tiers with different perks that you can get if you want to join the actual channel. One of them being exclusive content that you can only get by joining these tiers. We have like rapid fire questions with Max Cavalier from Soulfly, so make sure you sign up for that. Thanks again for watching the show. Thanks, Scott. And that is a wrap.